Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome, everyone, to Women Who Really Rock. I'm your host, Carmen Milagro. Just wanted to give you a little bit of background about what we're all about here at Women Who Really Rock. Women Who Really Rock is a podcast designed to showcase women doing incredible work all around the globe. We want to hear from women from all different countries and different viewpoints. We want them to share their stories, their insights, their advice, their best kept secrets. Our show is available on the Divas That Care network, and you'll find us only there. That's www.divasthatcare.com. That's our website where you can look for interesting topics, interesting chats. This is where we're going to reside. Now, I want to just sort of prepare you for our guest who will be joining us in just a few minutes. The background story of who she is and what she does. Her name is Kerrin Black. She's a citizen of the world and an international publicist. She's going to share with us a little bit of her journey, why she does what she does, and perhaps give you some insights if this is where you're residing in your world right now. I want to go ahead and introduce her. Kerrin Black, welcome to Women Who Really Rock.
Thanks, Carmen. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy that you joined us today, Kerrin. I want to share with everyone a little bit more detail about what you do, and I want you to jump in and correct me if I've missed something. Or I know that you're a serial entrepreneur. You're, of course,
yes.
a publicist. You're a philanthropist, and you are the founder of Talent Finders, Faces of Hope, and Faces of Inspiration. You were born in and studied in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. So you pretty much covered it all.
Good.
So,
I know that you are also a globetrotter. I mean, you have clients all over the world, and you travel to all these different places. Can you tell us a little bit about, I know that you grew up working in your family business, and you felt inspired to start your own business, which is, let's focus on Talent Finders. And your business concept was you have a theater background, you were working in a production house in South Africa, and you wanted to improve and make it a better way, right, to search talent, for connecting talent using the power of the internet. Would you say that you chose your path or that the path chose you?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, I think that because I was always passionate about the creative space and, I had a passion for the film industry, and the actual concept for Talent Finders, it was actually funny. I was watching one of the Oprah Winfrey shows back when she had the Oprah show with Harper Productions, and they had a particular show on speaking about different entrepreneurs and different people doing things, and I was having a conversation one evening with my father, and I said, wouldn't it be great to create one centralized platform for talent, so people looking for talent and talent looking to promote itself be on one central database. And that's kind of how the concept came about. And at the time, I had been working in a production company in terms of commercials, and I noticed that very often when it came to casting that they would have the wrong height, the wrong demographic, the wrong age, and people would just go for auditions, but it wasn't the right group of people necessarily that the producers or directors were looking for. So that's kind of how conceptually, once working in that environment, was seeing, is there a better solution to looking and searching for talent, and also up-and-coming talent who doesn't have an agent could also register. So we're not an agency for anyone, but we're a platform where talent who's looking to promote itself and those looking for talent can come to one central talent community, so to speak.
Right. And because you are really a citizen of the world, which is what I consider you, how would you say that with everything that you've learned from your travels and working with your different clients from all over, how would you say that the industry has evolved, like in the last 5 years? What have you seen is a big shift in the way that people are looking for talent and the way that talent is, promoting themselves?
Well, I would definitely say it's online. I mean, everything has shifted online. I mean, even if you look at the way publications are now, a lot of publications are moving away from print and are mainly becoming digital. I think also there is a strong emphasis, obviously, on self-branding, because I think from a publicity perspective, and the two work hand in hand, which is why I'm emphasizing the point, is that it's not about your product, because if your product is good enough, it will speak for itself. But people really want to know the name and the face behind the brand. And I think that is, and it's funny because it's become a more highlighted point. But when I started publicity probably more than 10 years ago, my first ever client, I understood that it was never about how great his art was, because people who, could see his product could see that it was great. Obviously art is all subjective, but, it was appealing to a specific, group of people, and, realized that actually it was the power of the story and the individual.
Sure.
So,
and that is really
it comes back down to branding. Yeah.
The brand and the story behind, of course. Now, why do you do what you do? I mean, what's the greatest reward that you receive from the work that you do, and what's the greatest reward that your clients get from working with you?
Well, I mean, for me, it's really about the deliverables, because, so much now, I think we're so on information overload, because there's just so much going on, and there's people out there that are talking about, everybody's an author, everybody's a coach. And I think that the problem is that the market is so oversaturated. I mean, anybody could write a book, stick it on Amazon and go, I'm Amazon's bestseller, So I think for me, it has always been about the deliverables. It's always been about driving the results. And my biggest reward is specifically pertaining on the media and the publicity side, is to see those articles and see those stories and being able to actually share that, because the tangible result is what is important specifically for me. And it's exhilarating when you actually see that. And I think what people fail to understand in terms of publicity is that, the value you get versus what you pay. And I think this is where there needs to be a serious level of education, because if you had, I'm just giving you an example, if you had to pay for that airtime, or you had to pay for that in terms of advertorial value, it would be, 3 times the amount, and you wouldn't be able to afford it. So I think hiring a publicist, and the publicist having the relationship or existing relationships with the publications, with the TV, with the radio, whether it's digital or otherwise, is very significant. And also it adds credibility to your existing credentials. And I think that this is what is so vital, because it's, everybody can be, a coach, supposedly. But, why would I take advice from, a financial advisor that's broke? So there's a lot of that going on. Or why would I take coaching advice from somebody that's living in their grandmother's garage or their parents' garage? So for me, it's very critical that your results speak for itself. And that people understand the value of what publicity is. So just give you one example, one of my clients went on to Fox Business, prime time, and the value of that, if you had to pay for the airtime, is $70,000 a minute. So basically, for 5 minutes, you got $350,000 worth of exposure. So versus what she pays a publicist like myself, versus the actual value, is like insurmountable. Like you can't even. Of course. It's really challenging to explain and educate this to people. And I know it's difficult because it's not like you're going into a shop and you're coming out with an immediate product. But I think that if people understand the process of publicity and going through that, and you will eventually see the results, and you will eventually see things start to actually render results.
And not to mention the fact that when you have someone and you feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you have someone in your corner who has your best interests at heart, when you have that person that is your champion, that to me is invaluable. I know from personal experience, being in the music background and that coming from that background, it's so important when you have someone who you trust and that is on your team, because it's like building any business. You want to build the best team possible. So why not hire the best team possible? In this case, Kerrin Black with Talent Finders.
Thank you.
What has been, you're welcome, what has been your personal greatest challenge on your journey? I know that, there's so much discussion about being a woman in business in this day and age, and, the disparaging numbers, right, where women are getting less than 3% of VC funding for their entrepreneurial startups and companies and ideas. And we all know how frustrating that is. But in your personal journey with starting Talent Finders, what's been the biggest challenge for you?
Well, I mean, definitely, as you touched on the whole VC and, angel investment, I think for me, obviously I've done a lot of travel. I went to Silicon Valley in 2017, like many women have gone before and still go now. I think the problem with Silicon Valley is it's highly oversaturated. You almost have to be an established brand or product for anybody to actually sit up and pay attention.
Right.
I find that, and I'm not, again, it's not about male versus female, but in this case, very much it is very evident. I've been in situations where, there's been sexual harassment. I experienced that, firsthand in 2017. And stories that, women have gone to Silicon Valley to get funding and ended up having horrendous experiences with men in positions of serious power because they have money, and at the end of it, have ended up, not being able to achieve what they set out to do. And I think the fact that less than 5% of women get funded globally is atrocious. And I think that these kinds of things have to be, changed. And I understand, that there are a lot of women. I think there's two challenges. The one is that women are very proprietorial when it comes to working together. So I think the challenge for women working with women is a very difficult one, because there is still a lot of bitchiness, if I could use that terminology. And I think that women can be very proprietorial. And on the other side, I feel that, women approaching male VC funds don't have a leg to stand on because they dominate. And, I still go through it, and I'm still trying to find a co-founder. I'm still trying to find a funder. And I see what a lot of women are doing is formulating these groups and, formulating these organizations, and, kudos to them. But I think people are really missing the point, because a lot of these organizations are like, oh, pay us $200 a month and then you'll have access to this network. And there's no guarantee. And I think that a lot of women are have great ideas. And I think that there are some phenomenal businesses. And I think there are some phenomenal opportunities. But I think women are being excluded or disregarded, and a lot of those good ideas are never coming to the forefront, because you have the challenge of, like I said, women working with women, where I do feel there is a slight shift in terms of women supporting women, but I just don't think that it's about we should be segmenting ourselves. I think that if a man or male VC fund comes in with the opportunity to invest in women, and I think women should be, in my opinion, I think women are better leaders in a lot of instances. But I think the other side, just to highlight one more point, is that the difference between men and women when they're pitching is that men have a much higher level or much stronger confidence, and I think that the biggest weakness is in women when pitching is their level of self-confidence. And I know because I speak for myself as well. Right. And I really just think we need to kind of step into our own and own it and own the idea and own the concept and not be intimidated, and really, step up. And I know it's easier said than done because it is very intimidating, and a lot of these entities are very patronizing. So,
absolutely.
That's
I agree with you. I agree with you. I think that the number one thing to do, of course, is to start having these discussions. And I think we are definitely doing that. We're no longer silent. So that's a great thing. But I do agree with you. I think, to summarize what you said, I do think that women should learn to play better together in the sandbox. I think that we have to become more confident, more vocal, more sure of ourselves, however that comes to be. And I'm hoping that by having, for example, this platform, our umbrella platform, which is Divas That Care, which is giving women from all over the world as a platform, a place to share ideas, and then Women Who Really Rock, this show is also focused on that. I think those are great beginnings to help change and make a better, bigger shift. But as you said, at the end of the day, most of all of this has to come from within ourselves. And how do we figure all that out? I do think that by championing other women, we can continue this process and have it become better. I think we have to champion ourselves, right? And work together like what you and I are doing here. Hopefully, those that are listening, women from wherever they are, whatever point of, in their life they are, that they get some inspiration. They also get some insight and some practical, not everything is, pink butterflies and unicorns. It's tough work to do what you do. It's also, you're also curating someone's career. You're helping to shape their brand. And I think that's such a huge responsibility. And it's something that you don't want to just hand that over to just anyone. Like anything else, I think people should suss out and do their due diligence and look at your track record. Look at the people that you're helping, where their careers are going. I know that you get people on the cover of international magazines. I mean, that has to speak volumes for the value that you bring to someone else's team. And I think that you have so much, advice and talent yourself. What would you say? What's the advice? Like top three, that just right off the top of your head, the top three pieces of advice you would give to young women who are entering the field right now. Go.
Well, the number one, I would say that you have to, as an entrepreneur, and obviously I'm speaking from an entrepreneurial standpoint, is that you have to be willing to have put in a lot of sacrifice. You have to do a lot of research, and also it's about adding value, and it's not just about just being everywhere for the sake of being everywhere, if that makes sense. So I think you really have to be willing to, like I said, they have a huge amount of sacrifice, go all in on what you're doing. I also think that you need to be able to be diversified, and you need to be able to be flexible to adapt in an ever-changing market and an ever-changing industry. And I think that your focus really has to be on, you do have to be focused on one thing, but I do believe that you should at least be involved in 2 or 3 things, and focus on where your income is going to come from. Because, a lot of people will say, oh, just quit your job, just go out and go all in. But, if you don't have the support structure, or you don't have the finances to help you do that, you need to have some kind of income coming in. So even if you gradually progress until you get to a point where you no longer have to rely on, it's kind of a side hustle, and go all in. So my advice would be, also understanding that you really got to, when I say sacrifice, you have to learn to live without certain things. Like I don't have TVs, I don't have cars, I don't own, big homes, or I don't own any property per se. And I've literally gone in, I've lived in all different parts of the world. I would say the second thing is, obviously depending on your career and depending on your industry, but specifically pertaining to what I'm doing, I think one of the biggest advantages I feel is that I've lived in different countries, for various periods of time. Also learning, this is a big lesson actually, is learning to understand that the way people do business in America is not necessarily the way people do business in the UK or Scandinavia, and I've lived in all 3, so I have a deep insight and understanding culturally the differences, understanding the way in which you communicate, because even in the English language, when you're conversing from English, from UK English to American English, or South Africa or Europe, whatever, it's very different. So I find that sometimes the communication, there is a misunderstanding, and maybe that's part of the reason why people lose deals, because, maybe they didn't say something that was understood, in the way that an American would interpret it or a Scandinavian would interpret it. So I think one of the biggest advantages of living in different countries is also understanding the culture and understanding the way in which people communicate, which obviously is more beneficial, because even if you're living in one country and you're doing that, you don't necessarily understand the culture. So if you are blessed enough, or you have the opportunity to live in different countries and understand the cultures and understand how to converse with different people, that also is a huge lesson that I've learned, in my opinion. So I don't know if that gives you some insight.
Yes, absolutely. It gives me some insight. It also reinforces what I've always felt myself, is a lot of times I think people, depending on what it is that, what you're doing as an entrepreneur or business person, or you're traveling for business and, someone else is footing the bill and they're sending you overseas or whatever it is. But I think that is something that is very important for people from North America, from the USA, to remember that there are different markets. So if you're a singer or you're selling product, I think it's super important to understand the way that you market your brand, the way that you market your product in the USA is going to be very different from, when you're marketing in Japan. I lived as an entertainer for a few months in Japan, and I learned so much and how different it is. So I think that just what you said,
and also even in Dubai, I mean, people making decisions
right?
in Dubai, people will tell you you can't go in with a very hardcore American kind of go-getter thing, because in Dubai they don't operate like that, and the decision process takes very much longer than what it would take in America, and vice versa in anywhere else. So 100%.
Right. No, I absolutely. And I think, to sum this up, if you have learned nothing else from this podcast today, as from wherever you're listening, I think that is one of the number one differentiators with hiring someone like Kerrin from Talent Finders, is that she understands this globally on a global perspective. And I think that if you are looking to become a global brand or a global name, an international celebrity, whatever it is that you're working on, that is something to keep in mind. That is one, ask yourself, is your publicist able to understand different markets from different countries? I know that we want to sort of wrap this up. We want to make sure that we keep everyone interested and engaged. So I want to make sure, Kerrin, that everyone knows where they can find you, how they can connect with you, and maybe give us one last final, pearl of wisdom for what to do in their search for a publicist.
Sure. So you can find me on, my website is KerrinBlack.com for the publicity, and that's KERRIN, black.com, and then my Instagram is Kerrin Black, and then my Twitter is Kerrin Black as well. And basically you can also find me on Facebook. So those are the three, and I also have a public Facebook page for Talent Finders as well, and for the publicity. And then for Talent Finders, they can go on to talentfinders.com, and my Twitter handle is Kerrin Black Live, just so they know. So, and then the final, I guess, pearls of wisdom is that for me personally, to just understand that when you decide to go in and you are able to travel, to do what you need to do in terms of going all in, it's just really understanding that everything that you invest, you're investing back into your clients, you're investing back into your business. It means you need to not be fancy. You don't stay in fancy hotels. And most entrepreneurs or real entrepreneurs will tell you, you will sleep on couches, you will crash at friends' homes, you will do whatever you need to do in the best interest of your clients. And not to say that you don't look after yourself, because that's obviously very important, but, predominantly the money that you invest is in your business and for your clients, and you really just have to be of the understanding that you cannot live fancy or be fancy, because I think sometimes what happens is even if people get funding for things, and they suddenly think I'm going to buy a car and a house, or they hit the big time. But I think you have to remind yourself, and this is why I respect people like Warren Buffett, because even though he's got billions in the bank and he's made a lot of money and he's done great work and really good, good work, is that he still remains humble, he still remains grounded, he still drives the car that he's been driving for the last 40 years. He lives in a humble home. Now, I'm not saying don't enjoy your money and don't enjoy your life, but I think that you really need to remind yourself, because just as much as you work hard to make the money, it's just as easy for something to go wrong, and then suddenly you're in trouble, and now you've overextended yourself and you spent all this. And we've seen it so many times, like with actors, with sports individuals, they make all this money, and then it's all bling bling and, you know, fancy cars and fancy houses. But the reality is that most of these people end up becoming bankrupt, their careers end, and then where's the money? So I think that you have to remind yourself and make wise choices in your
make
how
wise
you spend your money.
choices.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And think long term, right? That's the key, I think, is there's nothing wrong with having nice things, but it's think long term and think about your career, your plan should be long term goals. Kerrin, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I don't even know where you're calling us from today because I know you're all over the place, but thank you so much.
I'm in the UK at the moment.
Thank you are? Okay. Thank you. Well, I really, really appreciate it. I hope you'll come back and join us again because I think there's so much more that we can chat about. But thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been a wonderful just time to just chat with you and get to know you on a different level. I really appreciate it, Kerrin. And again, we hope you'll join us.
Thanks so much, Carmen,
thank
for having
you.
me.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you, you too. And everyone, thank you so much. This has been Women Who Really Rock. Our guest today was Kerrin Black, international publicist. We will have her information on our website, which is divasthatcare.com. This is the network that you will find our podcast on. We want to uplift and inspire you while we showcase other women doing incredible work all over the globe. I hope you'll join me next time for another episode of Women Who Really Rock.
Thanks so much, Carmen. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.